All right.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Everyone please stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Mike, can I?
Yes, let's bow our heads. Thank you for this day, Father. We appreciate the cooler weather and a hot period of the year and the extra rain. We ask that you would just be with us this evening, be judicious in our thoughts and our actions, and to have a collaborative spirit to forward the benefits of this board and the city. In Christ's name we pray.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Do we have any community announcements?
Sorry, you want to take a roll?
Yeah, we do need to do that.
Evening, City Week.
Bottom.
Oh,
I just wrote it.
that's fine. All right, we will call to order, determine if there's a quorum present. Holly Drew here, Jesse Hour here, Tim Heitman here, Mark Abernowski absent, Mike Browning
Here.
Vicky Dunn here, Aaron Bogart here. And that's it. Strange. Nothing on last month's either.
They don't have a way on the platform for me to add it without it. It does not print clearly. It's very bizarre. So that's something Jenny has a note
I
on.
thought it was on your script though.
It was.
That's because we typed that in Word. This came from Alicia. It's
Yeah, I figured that.
this time.
So
So
do it. Okay, moving on to community announcements.
I have two community announcements I'd like to make, both involving the Chamber of Commerce. I believe the chamber mixer is this Thursday evening, the 11th, at the Brass Tap, and it is a trivia night. And the second one is the chamber luncheon, July 17th at 11:30 a.m. and it's labeled a networking luncheon, and it also will be at the Brass Tap.
The networking lunch is too awesome.
The mixer starts at 5, I think, right?
You know, that's a good point.
it does. They're all.
I think it's 5 to 7.
5 to 7, okay.
You know, sure. I don't know that it had a end time on the luncheon, but I couldn't go to find it that closely.
Usually they go till about 1 o'clock, 11:30 to 1 is typical.
That's right. All right, is there any other community announcements? All right, moving on, citizen input. Have any citizens that have any wish to have anything? All right. Okay, moving on to consent agenda items. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
I don't want to remove it, but I do want to note that we have a follow-up question on one of the revenue items. The description was cut off, and prior to the meeting, Christine noted she'd get with Mike and get that info to us.
Charles, would you happen to know, we have and our income is proceeds from the property sale. It looks like it might be proceeds from the rent that was prorated and given to us at the property closing, but I'm not sure if that's, it was around,
It's a different line item.
Yeah, it's got a different line item than our rental property income.
It's $3,828.94.
And it's where?
It's under miscellaneous. Yeah.
Not looking for the previous. I don't know.
I've emailed Mike. I'll just forward y'all the answer. Once he gets back to me, I'm sure there's a easy explanation. I'll get that to y'all.
Sounds good. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make. Ladies first.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, understanding that we're pending one question or one answer to a question.
Second.
I have a motion by Vicky, a second by Jesse. All those in favor? Motion passes 6-0. All right, new business. Jason, we're gonna talk about the strategic plan. Jason and Chris, do y'all mind giving the presentation for the Telus Group? From the Telus Group over the strategic plan?
Oh, can't hear you,
Jason,
Jason, you're
can you-
muted.
Well, you think after 2 years of Zoom, we'd figure this out, but anyway. I'm here, and Chris is also here, my associate. I think you guys have met Chris in several meetings, but I'll guide this presentation. If I can share my screen, I think I can.
I just fixed it to where you could,
All right.
should be it.
That seems to be working. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having us tonight. We'll also be in Aubrey tomorrow night, working with the comprehensive planning team. So looking forward to being there tomorrow and discussing some of the land use strategies. Just to bring you up to speed, Chris and I, and thanks to Christine, had spent quite a bit of time having a number of work sessions with, I would say, a broad array of stakeholders over several days, and I think we provided you edits and comments to those conversations. And today, I think it'll be a little bit more meatier. We're starting to dig into some of the market opportunities, and we wanted to share some of the highlights with you regarding that and some of the industry cluster information. From here, we'll probably have one more work session on some of the targeted industry information, linking that to some of the land use opportunities. And then at that point, we should be working on goals, action strategies, and putting all this into production so that you guys have kind of a full report to start to review. And I'm assuming based on our schedule and your next meeting, we may be working on that presentation. So just to kind of set the framework, obviously, the purpose of this plan is to provide kind of an overview of the economy. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And then we started working on some policy direction and some goals at a high level for your review and consideration tonight. And ultimately, that will enable us to start to create those strategies, programs, and projects, ultimately to help achieve your mission. And that includes quality of life, economic conditions, and talent attraction. So, and all of this is guided by your mission statement. I'm assuming this is still applicable, but obviously some of the core goals of the MDD is to strengthen and diversify your economic base. We'll talk about that tonight. Attract and promote growth. We'll define that a little bit better, so it's not as broad, but obviously growing the pie is going to be an important component. And then also retaining and expanding your local businesses. We would probably add the word strategic businesses to that, and we'll get into that discussion as well. But and also, I think this is great why we're doing this with your comprehensive plan is obviously helping you maintain your sense of community. And I think obviously there's a community development focus to this as well. Just from a high level, some of the things that are your strengths that we've heard throughout the discussions that we've also recognized. Obviously, building off of your historical character. Most of that exists in downtown, but there are some evidence of sort of historic path along 377. Is a really a function of the railroad, the original agricultural history. One of the other strengths, we'll talk a little bit about that tonight, and we'll talk even more about population growth tomorrow, but you have an enormous population and income growth. You guys are aware of this, but obviously that creates a strong economic engine. It makes it really easy to pull from. We worked in a number of places that don't have the growth that you have, and so obviously your opportunities are going to be a much greater, building off of both population and income. Also, I think if you just look at other communities, you do still have that rural heritage. And there, in discussion, I think there's a number of reasons why people live in Aubrey, but there is a sense of ownership and pride I think everybody that we talk to, I think really appreciates, um, one, the opportunities, and certainly yearns for more retail goods and services and maybe more jobs and conveniences, but also there's certainly this rural attraction to the area and the lake that they really appreciate. We also recognize your attractive schools. That's one of the reasons why you're growing so fast. Other than just having available and affordable housing, and I would say that affordable is sort of relative, but your housing is somewhat more affordable than some of your other peers. But also having affordability with attractive schools is really a powerhouse. And then ultimately, you have a lot of still a lot of ranches and natural beauty and open space. A lot of that is in play, unfortunately, but hopefully this comprehensive plan will help protect some of that and allow you to maintain some of your character. Some of the challenges, and again, these are just a high level, but there's really no designated business or industrial district. So if you think about opportunities for future employment or large scale industrial, there's just not a lot of room and places to put that. And so that's going to limit to some degree the type of businesses that we attract. Obviously, as you grow, and the MDD, currently in its existing base, just has a limited capacity for incentives. Certainly compared to a lot of your peers. Although you do have a lot of latitude on how you use that funding, there is just the size and scale is going to limit some of your ability to maybe be competitive on some projects. And then when you look at transportation, there's a lot of congestion in the area, certainly along 380. That just makes regional mobility challenging. So opening up those future thoroughfares and providing alternative thoroughfares to the extension of the Dallas North Tollway and other thoroughfares will help. But obviously, when you think about your linkages, your access to your job core, sort of the urban core, and you could probably throw Denton into that to some degree, and the distance to some of the talent generators, UNT, Wesleyan, makes it somewhat complicated. Obviously, the challenge is also some of the regional competition. You guys are all sort of shift sharing some of the pie, and I know Christine will talk a little bit about some of the retail leakage, and that's a big component. We've got some couple slides just talking about kind of that relationship. And then when you're growing, you have a lack of gravity, and so there's a lack of analogs, but there's also a lack of retail gravity and a lack of employment gravity. And so while you have a good base to build off of, there's certainly some deficiencies there. And then when you look at your tax base, I think even looking at some of your sales tax information, that's fairly clustered within a few dominant categories, and then obviously a majority of your ad valorem or your current city base is driven by that residential permits and residential AV, and so looking for opportunities to diversify that tax base will be critically important going forward. We'll talk a little bit more about population projections, but we did start looking at different regions. We looked at the city and ETJ based on current population projections. We looked at different, what we would consider trade patterns, either a 7-mile ring or a 10-minute drive time, then compared maybe some of the factors to Denton County. Obviously, some of your advantages, we talked about that, is just your population growth rate and your income. And then when you look at your daytime population, those are the relationship between your sort of your residential population and your daytime population. Those are going to be some of the metrics that we're going to look at. And obviously, compared to Denton County and the region, the amount of college degrees is certainly high. So the talent actually in the area is high, but the generators are further away today. One of the things, and I know Christine will talk a little bit about retail. So we started looking at retail forecast. One of the geographies that we started studying was kind of a 7-mile node. That'll get you basically to the edge of Loop 288 and covers kind of the southern edge of Oak Point, and then basically what we would consider sort of the greater Aubrey region, including the ETJ. If you look at that area, there's about 1.4 million square feet of retail. And if you notice, the vacancy rate is extremely low. So we know that while the inventory is fairly significant for the population base, there's still deficiencies. When you look at the population growth and the amount of supportable retail, Aubrey, in our projections, our conservative projections, could absorb about 96,000 square feet of retail on an annual basis, which is about a shopping center. You know, if you want to think about, you know, a Kroger or a Tom Thumb with all the ancillary retail, that's probably the equivalent amount of the amount of demand that exists in the current trade area. And so a lot of that is just driven by that population growth and the spending pattern. And so while your retail deficit is fairly high compared to some of your peers, the demand is actually increasing substantially. And so obviously I know there's some commercial tracks in play, but we think that's what we would consider, you know, low-hanging fruit as part of the strategy, is helping you mitigate that leakage and take advantage of some of the retail demand that already exists. If you put that into perspective, we looked at some retail factors and compared that to maybe some of the adjacent peer communities. And I think what is most interesting and sort of expounds upon that leakage is if you look at the second to the last row, you've got retail per square feet. Aubrey, based on your population basis, has about 50 square feet for every person. And then if you look at Crossroads, you know, they're almost 10 times more than you, just with the limited amount of retail they have. And mainly that's the, you know, Crossroads or the Walmart. But on a per capita basis, your spend is about 2,300 per person compared to theirs in Crossroads, which is about 82,000. So, and they don't have property tax. So again, they're able to support their entire community just based on sales tax alone. And so obviously mitigating some of that leakage that's going to Denton and Crossroads and Salina will help you sort of help you diversify your tax base, but also mitigate leakage, which is obviously based on this chart. The other thing that we're looking at is we've been with the rest of the team looking at some of the housing growth, but you're anticipated to increase by about 2,300 households over the next 5 years. So that's just under 500 households annually. And then if we project the household demand based on our statistics, and you've got demand for about 617 owner occupied. So again, even though your deliveries are close to 500, there's still a deficit of about 120 homes a year. And then the renter occupied, that would be multifamily and condos and townhomes or any rental product that could be build to rent. There's a substantial deficit there. The demand is about 411 units of what we would consider traditional renter product. And then the townhomes or build to rent would be another 127. So while you've got a number of houses in the or units in the pipeline, about 5,000 in the city, if you think about the annual demand, about 600, you still have quite a bit of capacity in the marketplace. One of the things that stood out to us, and I think, you know, culturally, this may be the direction that you want to go, and that may be driven in part of the land use strategy with the team, is that about 93% of your housing stock is currently owner occupied. You know, that's not necessarily bad or good, but we know that there's a substantial amount of demand for renter occupied housing that's not getting satisfied. And so there may be a strategy to look at, you know, product that makes sense, that's context sensitive, that can accommodate, you know, service workers or, you know, a type of employment base that might help you attract some of the types of businesses that might desire to rent before they purchase, or might allow you to accommodate just more housing units and build your AV base. What we normally see in most communities, and this is a, you know, kind of a national average, but across the DFW Metroplex, we see about 65% is what we see across the board for most communities. Some communities like Arlington actually have a higher percentage of renter occupied, and so does Addison. But if you look at the majority of communities across North Texas, 65% is probably what we would consider more balanced. So
Hey,
that's not,
Jason,
yes.
what's the average for, say, these northern suburbs, like you look at Salina, Prosper?
Yeah, Salina and Prosper probably closer to that 65% mark. They may not quite be that low. I'll tell you, Oak Point I think is in the 70%. So, but there's still quite a few renters. I know they're adding some townhomes. That doesn't say that I'm promoting that, you need, 16,000 units of renter. One of the things that we did early on back for Plano is we were able to study a lot of the historical neighborhoods, and the dominant factor affecting neighborhood health was actually the commercial quality adjacent to the neighborhoods. And that makes sense because a lot of times the commercial functions as a gateway. But another factor that we noticed is that when you had renter concentration, renter wasn't bad, and they were probably closer to 60% owner occupied and 40% renter. But what we did notice is that when you have rental concentration, where a lot of the neighborhoods were starting to turn to rentals, or they had a high percentage of multifamily, then we did see that those conditions do affect neighborhood health. And obviously, when you have neighborhoods that have a lot of renters, they generally are less maintained, and certainly if they're out of state, you just have general more disinvestment and less community ownership. So we're not promoting that, you need to become more of a rental community, and that needs to be the focus, but there is a deficit, and there is a high propensity for people that are certainly 25 and below, or even 30 and below, that may have a higher preference to rent, even if they are a choice population. So
one of the factors that may skew that high around here, I know, for example, where I live, in Sandrock Ranch, the HOA restricts the fact that
correct.
rentals in there, and there's gonna be 2,500 units when it's out.
Correct.
Rotterdam's pretty big. I don't know if they have restrictions, but so they don't. So that could be one reason why it may not get down in the 60s, depending on, as these communities grow, what their HOAs decide to do with deeds.
And it's not like you're landlocked and you don't have access to other talent in places that have, places that could function as renter. Although Frisco is, really challenging. All their stuff has to be structured. Obviously, Crossroads and Oak Point are generally obviously multifamily and high density housing. So just know that people may have to commute further to get that type of product, and so you may lose some choice population because you don't have product that can service them. So I'm not sounding any alarms. I'm just saying statistically we're seeing anomaly there. There may be a strategy for a quality mixed use development. It could be truly vertical mixed use that could create a different palette and walkability and an urban design that y'all would feel it's sort of attractive, that fits your character, that could be appropriate to accommodate maybe a more balanced housing. So, but we'll get into land use, and obviously there'll be other committees that sort of weigh into this, but we did notice in terms of the housing demand that there's more capacity for residential, even though you have a substantial amount in your pipeline, and two, your owner to residential balance, your rental balance is off compared to what we normally see. But that there's places like Crossroads, Oak Point, Dripping Springs, and Austin where some of that strategy is intentional. The other thing Chris and I looked at is just looking at small office demand. I would say that there are opportunities for maybe a jewel box corporate opportunity, maybe somebody that lives in Aubrey and decides to move a company to Aubrey for whatever reason. That certainly could make sense, which would increase our number. But we see, just based on annual demand and maybe frictional turnover, you're looking at about 5,000 square feet of demand of office that I think would be predictable. And then the other thing that we looked at when you think about attraction for different types of businesses, we looked at industry, and then we'll look also in this process occupation clusters. If you look at the chart or the diagram, the easiest way to look at this is that anything that's above the 1 has higher concentration in those industries locally, based on industries compared to other places across Texas. And then as you get further away from the axis, going to left to right, those are the companies that are growing. So, again, anything above 1 would be greater concentration. And as you further get out to the right, those are the growth categories. And so what we see locally is opportunities in technology, finance, and insurance. One of the things that stood out to us is sort of entrepreneurial and local, smaller businesses, white collar businesses such as management, and then a lot of capacity for entertainment, recreation, education, which certainly makes sense. Some manufacturing, and then the other dominant categories is retail and restaurant, and also hospitality. And that could also correlate well with some of the wedding venues and the concentration of sort of tourism that is built up naturally because of the location and even to some degree because of the type of sand that you have, maybe some of the equestrian opportunities. So we're going to continue to build on this. Obviously, some of these trades we'll have to figure out, where the inventory makes sense. But these are some of the emerging industry clusters based on the location quotient information. So based on that, and some of the conversations, and we looked at your mission statement, some of the emerging goals or from an operational standpoint is just continue to build the MDD into a first-class organization. We'll get into specifically what that means. Obviously, in terms of character, we want to make sure that you support and prioritize projects that align with your brand. And we're working with Civic Brand, so that's super fortunate in terms of the comp plan to start to identify those brand assets, and we can certainly build on that statement. Continue to build on an incentive policy that makes sense to help prioritize and attract the businesses that align with you and also align with investment in strategic infrastructure. Chris and I were talking about, obviously looking at projects that can be catalytic and help you extend infrastructure so that you can leverage limited amount of public dollars to maximize private returns. Obviously, you have a pretty emerging business retention strategy, but as you continue to build your base, just continue to build alliances and measure what's working and not working for some of your existing. And I would say not all your businesses, but we wanted to make sure that those are strategic businesses. And then I think the next sort of evolution in our process will really be helping you build out a business attraction strategy. And that'll include some of the targeted industries, but also include some of those retail categories that you have a substantial amount of demand for, and then you have the greatest amount of leakage for. And so hopefully that can help you increase the retail options, not only locally to balance your tax base, but also help you continue to build choice, talent, attraction. And then in terms of talent, we're going to continue to look at opportunities to build relationships between sort of the higher ed organizations and also your local schools. And then we're also looking for opportunities that we could house and accommodate in Aubrey that could also, when you think about leakage, not only mitigate retail leakage, but we also want to mitigate talent leakage because we know there's a lot of people that live in Aubrey that drive elsewhere for employment. In terms of infrastructure, we're going to look at opportunities to leverage the existing infrastructure to maximize economic development. So it's just not about building investment in infrastructure, but where can you get the greatest return on some of the existing assets, and then obviously help work on projects that can prioritize infrastructure to help you either expand or maintain existing infrastructure in terms of a priority. And then in terms of economic development, looking at opportunities to manage that growth, because you're going to have an exponential amount of growth, and some of that you may not want. So help to prioritize that. And then as part of our process, we'll use some of the findings from this and from this process to help you balance some of the land uses with kind of the right mix of residential and commercial opportunities. And then again, mitigate the sales tax leakage, improve fiscal health, and then help you identify strategies, some of the public strategies or MDD strategies that can help maximize some of the private investment. And then in terms of strategic areas or core real estate, I know that you've spent some time looking at downtown, but we'll provide some updates on where we think make the most sense for downtown activation and revitalization. And then obviously, I think our next strategic opportunity area will be is working along that 377 commercial corridor. And then when you think about just community development, again, maintaining and investing in community amenities to attract development. And I think the MDD can play a strategic part in helping improve some of your corridors, specifically 377, to help you give a better identity. It's certainly at the gateways, and then also align those investments with opportunities to help maximize those community development outcomes. And so when you think about your incentive policy, we'll think about opportunities to sort of link any incentives and projects, and also can maximize those community enhancements as well. So that's the slide that we had. We wanted to, again, give you some market findings. I think that's the biggest component or gist. But we also, if you have any questions in terms of some of the emerging goals, we'll be fleshing those out and then building, strategies and actions around those in the next few weeks to present probably at your next meeting. But happy to go back or recover any of the information that we covered tonight if you have any questions.
Yeah, Chris, I've got a question. Early on, you had a graph up about how much leakage. It looked like everything was based off of a 7-mile circle from kind of downtown City Hall type area. Have you done anything on this as far as like our eastern population and what we might be losing there, and what our competition would be like further east?
Yeah, so we are working on a PIN study, and we should have that back tomorrow. We were hoping to have it back today, but we'll actually have a PIN study to sort of narrow this down, and we'll actually be able to give you more information on specifically the gravity of your current market. And then we'll also look at alternative competitive markets that will help sort of shed light on that question.
All right, thanks.
Jason, on that, I shared with y'all some of those placer reports and the leakage, the retail leakage that we found in comparison. Will that be compared to what you're working on there, and you'll be able to come back? Okay, so I noticed on some of our placer reports there, as far as the eastern goes, there is a shopping center that's east of there that tends to get a lot of some traffic that direction.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah, I know you, and you've got interest. And I'll go ahead, and I'll go ahead and finish your question.
I think in the report there was some demographics with it, but I noticed there were other leakage reports in certain categories that stood out. What would y'all say? I mean, it seems that it's obviously grocery, apparel. There was some medical. Was there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, grocery's huge. If I was going to double down on anything in Aubrey right now, it would be grocery and restaurants. I think I did see that there was some fitness, and that makes sense to me. I mean, I think it's an active category as well. But if I was going to double down, I think grocery and restaurant, general retail and entertainment would certainly make sense. I do think, at some scale, and that may be where a mixed use development comes into play, and again, y'all can kick me under the table later, but if you had a small nuanced development that had some hospitality, maybe a limited amount of urban residential, just to give it, sort of some scale and some level of density and walkability with the right retail mix. And that could be in combination of a grocery store, but something that just feels authentic, but yet a little bit more urban, almost kind of the scale that you would experience today in downtown, with the right character. I could see hospitality making sense as well. So
To Jesse's earlier question about leakage to the east, one thing that's not gonna show up yet in those place reports is there's an HEB, a Walmart, and a Costco. They're gonna open at 380 and 423 all within the next 3 months,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is gonna drive it even farther that way. Plus, Salina, as you pointed out, is now the fastest growing city in America, so you've got that too. But I just wanted to learn, in case you didn't realize that center down there, 380 and 423 is gonna, square footage wise, probably is double the grocery retail. Within.
yeah, we're tracking on 380. I guess a potential of a Sprouts and Target and HEB, which I think you guys are aware of, just and perhaps a Kroger. So there's 4 grocers on 380 that are at least discussing, future opportunities in this geography.
So to that point, Jason, so to that point of all of those things coming to 380, when we're looking at land use and also the transportation and the thoroughfares, will you be coming back with some land use recommendations for good locations for those types of commercial developments based on the fact that we lose it now going to the east into 380?
Yeah.
What roads, knowing our thoroughfare plan and what's coming up, knowing all that's becoming.
Yes, so we'll work with Dunaway on the findings from this initiative, but yes, we will get into individual tracks and development sites for various uses with Dunaway on the land use plan. Correct.
Okay, cool. That's what we were interested in.
Okay, so, yeah, because we have, and I'm sure you saw the announcement, there's another subdivision Centurion coming up at 1385 in Moberly, which is in our outside our ETJ, but right on the northeastern edge. So lots of house tops.
Yep.
For potential.
The next few months, the next few months will be certainly telling. So
The one I sent you is mostly commercial.
Centurion.
But there's houses with it too. There's also, if you look up 1385 in that direction, there's stuff.
I've heard that announcement, but I haven't seen their concept plan yet or their land use plan. So we'll get a copy of that.
And and then there's that a golf course coming in up 455 and 1385 area.
So there's some other things to think about too. There's a restaurant I went to out in Salina called the Nook. Neat little restaurant. It's almost like a clubhouse, like you'd see it in HOA, but open to the public. It completely fits into the aesthetic, and folks want to drive their golf carts in the neighborhood, they can go there. It might be another thing we look at as if residential want to come in, something we can target and say, listen, well, why don't you can have a small central area there that, your folks are going to want, your homeowners are going to want that.
Yeah.
Your residents are going to want that. And that will again help dispel some of the leakage in a way that shouldn't be that hard to sell.
I agree.
If you like little robots, it's fun. They got robots that deliver your food there.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
The way of the future.
They got regular wait staff, and then the robot will come out with your stuff and say.
Interesting. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
We'll be back with kind of more of a comprehensive approach to this, and we'll flush out the goals more with Christine, and I think next meeting will be more comprehensive, kind of pulling all this together, and then we should be beginning. Obviously, tomorrow will be a big meeting on the comp plan, but we'll start to sort of fold hopefully our finished product here and into that process as well.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
We'll see some of you tomorrow, I hope.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Ciao.
All right, moving on to business item number 2. Consider and take action on approving the NPD executive director to enter into a professional services agreement with Westwood Consulting for a downtown farmers market concept and construction plan in the amount not to exceed $25,000. Christine will kind of go through that for us.
Okay, so as you saw in the staff report, I'm gonna pass these. I made these so we didn't have to worry about following along the screen so much, but this is a list, and I'll share these websites in case y'all want them, but that's just some information when I went out to the Texas downtown. These are pictures y'all can look at and share. When I went to the Texas downtown site or listserv, it's a very helpful listserv. They gave me I just asked for information on, what they saw as some success stories or things that worked for them for farmers market when they had one in their downtown. And so they had some comments that they shared with me, talking about how many of them had a business that went from being a vendor into a brick and mortar or expanded their business and entrepreneur efforts to create more products. And so, for instance, Rockdale, they had a coffee shop and art space go into a brick and mortar. There were Florist Boutique, and they had another boutique added. Borger said they're in their 4th year, and they've had a business, a juice company, use the market to build their business and test their product before they went into business. Texas Bee Spit, which is kind of funny. Texas Bee Spit, that's the name, but I don't know if I'd eat it, but it was a local vendor market. And so they went into a building on Main Street. There were more food truck, same thing, meat company. And so they also said that the businesses did express having more foot traffic when the vendors were downtown. And they also tried it on a Thursday night and did it evening hours instead of a Saturday morning from like 6 to 9, and that helped. Then there were some other smaller, or Taylor, Texas had 3 vendors go into businesses in the last 3 years, and then Amarillo, which is obviously bigger, in Mesquite, they had some input and good transitions from the market into businesses. So just a comparison of small to large cities. And there are websites that give public market and farmers market data and information, tips and hints, how to make it successful. So anyway, obviously a market could not be started until a larger one could not be started until we have some infrastructure built. Infrastructure can't get built till there's a plan made. So to draw one of those plans, and if we were to add that to the park improvements that are already happening and get a plan drawn by Westwood, who already has drawn plans for Veterans Park and the Matthews Park improvements, they know what's already happening. They're familiar with the area, the park plans layout. So the space that you see here, and I'll pass this down since I've got the thing up to, the space that is proposed is this larger area in that Wilson Park. This is the area they're going to be currently improving with the city funding. They just got approved for some garden area improvements, but it's adjacent to the garden actually. So there will be a small structure put up there that's covered that about 4 vendors could fit under. There'll have some storage. There's really not a plan for much more covered space, and there's some landscaping in that plan and some fencing and an electric gate that's coming from a former horse ranch. So that is what the plans are for the Parks and Recreation right now. Our suggested area could be improvements all in this area, which could include the parking, the food truck pads. It could include more fencing, especially here along Sherman, pedestrian areas, and more shaded structures and vendor spaces.
How much, what's the size? Is that acre or 5 acres?
I don't have the acreage. Christy is out of town, but we had talked about that area, and that again, I can get back to y'all, but
I'll give you a rough calculation.
okay, you got your app. Okay, great.
There's not for that.
And so I just looked on the map there, but this would be, that's the ground. And if you're not familiar with that space, Tim and I
It's
actually were.
right over here.
Yeah, just right there. And you see it when you drive down Elm Street across the tracks.
And that's all city owned property, correct?
Yes. Yes,
About,
up to the
about
house.
3.5 acres or so total. I mean, I don't know how much of that's on the north end, some of that structure is not gonna
Right.
be visible, but that entire property north end, about 3.5 acres.
All right.
So this would, obviously, when they work on the plan, it would take into consideration the space that's not already, or that's ours, and not maybe butting it and leave some space between the private property. But the train here in this picture, that's in Mesquite. They built a farmer's market right alongside their train track. And that's just a pedestrian safety area. This is a parking area. So I just showed you these to give you ideas of what it could look like, or to envision what does a built out farmer's market look like. So a lot of us are familiar with those that just have the pop-ups and they don't have concrete. They don't necessarily have hard surfaces. This is again Mesquite. They went with the rail theme for providing their shades to kind of just play off. They did a whole downtown street improvement along with this. So those are some shade sails. These are anchors that are put into the ground, permanent anchors, so people don't have to bring sandbags and all the other bulky things that vendors need to hold down their tents. And this is a covered area that can be used for a stage area. It can be used for other covered vendor tables if needed. Concrete blocks. In this picture here, they have the power pedestals inside here. So all they would have to do is unplug, plug right in. They don't have to have a bunch of extension cords running, which is also nice. And then these little pedestal or these little pillars, they move, they're portable and they can block parking spaces with them. And they can also, there's some heavier ones they can, when they use the street that actually has a through street next to theirs, they block off the street with those heavier ones, obviously. So anyway, these are just ideas of what can be done when you have a structured plan for a farmer's market and you make it a space that is usable for multiple purposes. It could also be used for special events. It could be used for, if they wanted to have another concert series and use it somewhere else or smaller series. There's lots of opportunities when you have the structure in place.
So
So
we have ownership of said structures and the whole shebang.
it would be
And
city
it's-
property.
Okay.
So-
Big sports radios, peanuts.
Yes, so again, part of our MDD purpose and funding can be used, and state statute says it is designed for use for funding plans and drawings, funding construction of certain types of projects within a business district or within parks. And so these all fit within those.
This is the direction of the parks. This is what is being desired down here. isn't it?
Well, they're doing what they can in their budget. And so
Oh, yeah.
they know a farmer's market has been a desire. I've gone to them asking how could, what is the need for a farmer's market in terms of what else is needed to make it happen faster?
And they have a very big budget.
Because their budget's not very big, and so, of course, in order to get anything done, you gotta have it engineered and drawn and plans, and we can get a construction plan with this drawing that would say, here's how much it would cost to build this. It would be engineered for the concrete and all those things, the infrastructure needed for infrastructure.
Who's telling them what they want? So
Well,
we're paying 25,000. Who's saying, I want you to do this?
we would give them the elements I've lined out in the staff report, and if y'all want to add anything to it, we could, but right now it would be for electric, irrigation, food truck pads that we kind of had some ideas tossed around last time, canopy covers, fencing, landscape beds, gazebo stage, some kind of covered stage area, and then they would come back with some drawings. So
Have they done drawings like this for similar cities in the area?
Westwood?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're a major engineering firm. They have an office up in someone.
So they've done. small
And they've
camps,
done, yeah,
like
they've
cities,
done
they've
Aubrey's plans for the
area.
park improvement already.
I'm just
other-
thinking of something that's already been done. and put in
Oh, that we
place.
could see?
Yeah, other
That's what-
examples.
We could ask.
And you can probably account for it.
Yeah, we could ask. I don't
That
have a
would be
list
great.
of all
I've
of,
seen Van
Yeah.
Alstyne's in the last few weeks and it's incredible.
Yeah.
They really brought together their railroad
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and even the ground has insert railroad and it's really, really neat.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that what
I'm-
Westwood isn't. but
Yeah.
It would just be nice if we saw some
Got an idea,
examples to
yeah.
even know,
yeah.
is this something that, are we on the same page or not?
okay.
My other thought is that I know Krugerville has a pretty good farmer's market. And then I know that Peanut Gallery has the food trucks out there. I heard a rumor that land actually sold out by the Peanut Gallery and those people are planning on putting in another food truck for it.
Really,
So I'm a little bit
Down the road,
concerned that
yeah.
all of a sudden we're gonna have
all the food trucks.
all the food trucks, and all of a sudden that's like the flavor of the month,
Yeah.
and then the desire's gonna go downhill, and now all of a sudden we've got 52 plots of electric.
Yeah,
Well, keep in mind, if you did, you could, if they came back with drawings and you could say, no, just do one or two. You don't have to do a ton of food pads, but when food trucks come, they do need a good parking spot and surface and they do need some access to electricity. So again, that could be all part of the design. Could say one or two food trucks, and
Well,
that's
the other
it.
thing, it isn't, if you do it right, that food pad doesn't have to only be a truck pad.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
It
So
would
that's something they
definitely,
need to consider.
yeah, and
I
that's
think
what,
that's good.
again, when we look at these things, if you had examples of cities that are places that you've seen, like I just take pictures constantly everywhere I am. I see a picture, I like that, put it in a folder, placemaking ideas. So it could be that I'm looking, trying to find their website. They probably have samples on their website that we could even look at, but, that is definitely not out of the question to give them some direction and say, here's
We
what
have to, yeah.
where we want covered vendors, we want this, we want it to.
So who's-
complement
who's-
what
You were asking who's spearheading the communication.
Well,
Right.
I would be, it says the executive director, so that would be me, but it would be based off the conversations I've had with y'all and with Parks.
And
In
Parks.
conjunction with
What Parks is
Yeah.
already doing that we don't
Oh.
need to do.
Parks is already doing something, we're trying to help
Yeah.
them out, so they're already doing something, if they asked if we would like to help them, they would help, we would go collaborate together and make it. What as a group, what we want.
So it sounds like.
So
But
what's
we
the future expectation beyond the plan?
We would
Beyond
find
what
out from the
is planned.
plan, we would find out a construction plan of what it would take. They would come back, show us what plans could be and what construction would be required and probably some estimated construction costs. From there, it would be a decision if that way Parks has that done. And then if Parks wants to build that farmer's market and work it into their budget, they'd have to go back and ask for it in their budget the next year, but we'd have one big step done. But right now, this is not in Parks' budget to get it done even in the next year. So we would just help that
To get the
step.
drawings done.
To get the drawings done.
Right.
So
So we could help that get further along.
I think it would be helpful to just get with the parks people and see where they are. and
Well, I've
what
done
they're
that.
doing.
I did all that.
Okay.
That's why I'm coming to y'all now. It's
Oh.
done. The conversations have happened and I spoke with y'all briefly last time. So that's where I'm just trying to move to the next step.
It'd be a catalyst
So-
for.
They did do Adriatica,
Oh, did they?
So.
but they've also done, sorry, just,
Go ahead.
they've also done a lot of underground power head lines. A lot, power lines, apartments.
Yeah, they're an engineering firm too, so they're
Well,
gonna have,
that's why I said
Yeah.
Adriatica Village. So
Yeah.
I started with that, but they've also, I mean, I'm just,
let me look and see. if I
it's
can-
hard for me to
Residential
see what somebody might have done if I don't have
visual.
visual of what they've done. And there's nothing on their website that, other than the Adriatica.
Where did we get their?
There's
name? I mean, is
mixed-
this some park
It's a firm
Who we're
that
already
is,
using.
we're using them already for the parks improvements. It's a firm that goes to, they're
So we
all over
could have,
the
or should have
United
got.
States.
We could have got the park they're gonna put in on High Meadow. We could have got those to present, right? Because if they did
Well,
that.
they're probably on the website. I can go to the city's website if you want to see
Um,
plans. I mean, the other thing is we can give them, give them this list. They've got the plans. They're gonna come back with something. We could say we'd like it to complement the peanut dryer, the style could complement the peanut dryer. It can be a style that is already in our downtown, in our,
Yeah. But I see what you're, I mean, I get what your point, having more than one company. But then, but how do you do, you can't really do
I
that,
just
you
wanna
need an
know-
RFP,
I just want to know what an example looks like.
yeah,
And then,
but you have to pay for it.
in your discussions with parks
Yeah.
or other city departments, obviously, well, let's just say we do exactly what we want, right? We help spur along development of that area. It
Mhm.
opens up some finished parking, so maybe parking during peanut festival or tree lighting, there's some options there, right? All that good stuff
Yes, yeah.
happens. The pedestrian traffic between where we're at right now and there is,
We would
shall
have-
we say, less than ideal. Do you, in your discussion of the city departments, are they working on addressing that too?
Well, that, Charles, I mean, they're working on it because they're gonna start with Memorial Park and go slowly this way, I mean, this way. So yes, that is projected in their
there is a downtown master plan.
Yeah.
That would include some
It's
of
in
that
our
walkability.
book.
But that's not drawn yet either. So you start with one, you go to the next. So if we got the drawing out of the way for the farmer's market, you start there. Not every city that has farmers markets or has pedestrian areas always has their streets finished in between those areas, which is not ideal.
So I'm just
But-
asking you what your conversations are with the departments.
It is that we have to get the drawings first. And then
That's what we need.
plan and prioritize. And if we can get the drawings first and say, this would be a good business incubator, then we can go forward from there. But can't do anything without the drawings is the conversation. So, we've talked about it. I brought it to y'all. It's something.
But yeah, there is a master plan. We need it. Does everybody have a picture? Have y'all seen the master plan? Is everybody seen the master plan?
It's, yeah, and I
We'll get Tim. We'll
it's
get
on the
some for you.
website.
Is this the new one?
Yeah, Tim, I may have given, I gave it.
No,
to
there
you
is no
in the
new one.
packets.
Okay, no,
This
is
is
that the
it.
one from like
Yeah,
2014 or whatever?
yeah.
But that's what you're going, there's no.
Okay, yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, after they do the comprehensive plan, that'll be rolled in, I believe. That brings you.
My question,
Not changing.
whether, the new, if there was any new plans or things.
Okay, yeah, no, I've seen that.
Mike, when you saw the presentation, the
So
parks
that's the same.
presentation in your class, your leadership class, you remember Leanne explaining the process when we have plans and stuff does, yeah. I don't know if you want to share with them what your take was on that, but in terms of the parks and, master plan for parks. That was under mapping, but I think that's not, so.
So I guess on this, y'all want to get some ideas brought back of what they've done in the past.
Well, I mean,
It's not an RFP.
it's not an RFP,
It's
it's,
just, do you want to enter it to a contract with
Yeah.
them or not to do the drawings?
and
Well,
then,
it's not an RFP. I understand it's not an RFP, but we can have examples of what they've done in the past, and that's what.
I mean, you said they've done work for the city before. You could have just brought one of those and said, here, here's some of the examples of this they've done for the city. This is the kind of work you guys could expect for your 25K.
Right, that's all that's all my question is.
I mean, but.
I don't have an objection.
There- right, well,
What do y'all,
I mean,
what do y'all think?
There's a reason that we've been so fiscally conservative for the last 10 years, and that's because we're not.
Yeah.
We fully look at things before we spend money. I'm not saying they're not a great company. I'm not saying that they wouldn't do a great job. All I'm asking for is bringing some pictures of things that they have done for other cities in the past, so that I know what we can, I mean,
Sure.
let's say they bring us back something and it's gonna be $3 million to build it. It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Wouldn't give them that kind of direction.
yeah,
And I understand, but again, just knowing what the thought process is.
If you're not seeing the park drawings, there's like 6 of them out there. There's Matthews Park, there's Leslie Park.
Yes.
There was just one was just posted today.
Yes, I saw that.
That's
That's all.
This is
So
the
they've
park
done 6
plan.
parks for.
Aubrey.
Yeah, they've done
And-
Matthews, Leslie,
Do you have
they're
this?
working on, Treveti Park right
Yeah.
now, 23
Okay.
acres. They.
Where did they post
And so
that?
those are examples
So
of
it's
what
just
their
posted?
work.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, on the website today, on the Facebook page today, they posted a picture of Matthews Park.
Can you
What
pull
the
that-
design, and there's a High Meadow Park.
So
What-
can you pull that up?
Real quick.
On the Facebook page?
Yeah, the one that he just
Oh.
said was
It was
posted.
posted
Oh,
today.
okay, yeah.
We weren't,
I was
I thought Facebook not allowed to be on Facebook during the day.
Ah,
just go to City of Aubrey Facebook. Just go City of Aubrey Facebook. Thanks.
Ah,
Yeah. Leslie was really good.
Like, it's
Yes,
more
that's
than one
good.
Aubrey.
Just click enter. Give me a search, it'll probably give you a good.
There, right there. Click it.
I know how to click, y'all. I just
Exit. Exit.
I know, I'm gonna get there.
I can
Okay,
help you drive.
so here is the drawing here.
2 hours
This is the
ago, I
same
definitely
company
looked
that
at time.
You're talking about now. Okay.
So,
You get much more than that, that's just what she posted today. You don't
Yeah.
have to-
but
See
as
the-
far as Westwood, I mean, if I can get Westwood to send examples of,
No, I
I'm
think-
looking on their website now to see if they had some of their.
Except remind me,
No, I think that's a good. I think that's great.
because I think I've seen it, Leslie Park before in city council. This will include drawing, concept drawing, and then a base estimate on construction costs. It'll include like surfaces, which surfaces.
What
are
it
which-
will go there, it'll be,
Would that also include like a water runoff? Because like, if we could do a lot of concrete there, we'd be doing a lot more runoff.
yeah, that will do, not the $25,000.
Okay.
Right.
That it will include irrigation for the landscape and things that are there, so electric pedestals. Any electricity needed for other features, landscape beds, fencing, canopy covers, gazebo stage area, irrigation, food truck pads, parking lot.
Mike, you remember the presentation when I showed you the parks and they had the kind of equipment that would be there?
Mhm.
It was
I've never
rotated,
seen
the park was down the middle and then they had those drawings from like it was like a jungle gym, I don't know what it was called, we looked up the name. And it shows you where that's going to
Click on
be
the
on that
three
diagram.
lines that
Yeah.
there's projects.
And then, and they'll give you,
Yeah,
I think
they'll
they're
give you a
having-
draft where you say, no, I don't like that, you send it back and then.
So there's unlimited, provision facility.
Yeah, it's not really dust.
Well, there's
They'll
parks right there.
do it.
I know, I'm trying to get back down to it.
They start with the direction you give them, and they come back with a concept drawing, and you
Okay.
do the iteration back and forth.
Well,
Yeah.
what's done enough of these, if you tell them this is the area that we have,
Undo
we want to
mixed
have a
use.
farmer's market, they're going to design you a farm.
Well, yeah.
Exactly what it needs to be.
There you go, that's.
Arlington.
Well, there tells you the
So
scope.
this is what they did. Mm-hmm.
Look at the one in the middle.
Just, I'm just gonna.
Oh, I was like, where are
Like,
those mountains?
Yeah.
What's that? Right arrow deal, as I go through a series of pictures.
Mhm.
I wonder if we go back to keep going, see, goes like the original drawing, it might be in, yep. Not this time.
Let me go to-
Right.
That's nice.
That's just a drawing, so.
Grading a parking lot, real level, that's all they did.
The nice thing about it is they have an office in Salina around their square, you know.
Do you have, go back to the City of Aubrey Facebook page and scroll down until you get to veterans. Maybe it's close. She posted all the parts.
Does a good job.
Mhm.
Every day.
I know, I can't keep up.
Oh, good.
Is it a photo?
Down there, it's probably down there.
Can I grab really quick?
It's been a minute since. Look at the photos, that's a good idea.
There's a lot of photos too. So I think. Trying to think what week that was.
That's High Meadow. That's that little park in High Meadow next to the water tower.
Mhm.
That's the one
They
that I
go
was saying, yeah, that's the one I was saying to Mike, that's just the drawing. And what they give you is a 3 or 4 page document that it will have arrows that tell you what those items are and give you a depiction of what it would be, what it would look like, kind of
In construction cost estimate.
exactly, yes, they'll tell you how much it will
Yeah.
cost. That's a list.
Yeah, okay, I've seen this. Which is very nice, your trees and your.
And that's the first Leslie. So we sent this one back and had some other things done to it so that we show the soccer field and we could show the back of the baseball field that's there. So they added all of that back in because we had some residents that were concerned that that was leaving. So Westwood fixed that for us.
Very cool.
So. They're, as you can see, they do a ton of different types of projects, but
So at least we're not talking about working with the company new to Aubrey or new to.
Correct.
no. And they have offices all over the country. So like I said, they have one in Salina, you know where to find them.
We ended up with Westwood through the Chico Coke. Was that Westwood bought out the Chico or PK. And that was who we deal with a gentleman named Clint Set over in Salina. There's Salina, to give you a good idea, Westwood's office in Salina is downtown on the square. So
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the MBD Director General Professional Services Agreement with Westwood Consulting for Farmers Market Concept and Construction. In an amount not to exceed 25,000.
Second.
Motion by Mike, a second by Aaron. All those in favor? Alright. All those opposed? Alright, motion passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Alright, now we need an update from the construction and building subcommittee.
Well, Tim and I are on this both with Mark, and this will be a very short agenda item because between schedules, Mavericks going as far as we did, and other vacations, we have not had an opportunity to meet yet. There is nothing to report at this meeting. We anticipate some more information at subsequent meetings, so we'll add that as an agenda item for the next meeting.
What's next on y'all's plan?
Get together, meet, and have the initial meeting, discuss exactly the roles of what we're going to be doing.
Okay.
Projects to focus on.
Did you vote for on the first one, the consent agenda?
Yes,
But you didn't vote on the.
I did, 5-1.
So then wouldn't it be 6-1?
There's only 6 of them.
Mark-
So then
Mark
what,
says
but you didn't vote, but you did vote on the first one,
6-0.
so wouldn't that be 5-0, because Aaron wasn't here?
She was here.
No, I think she made
For the
it.
consent?
Yeah, she was.
Okay. Sorry.
She made it before we even started.
Okay.
Yeah, if we started at 6, she would have been late, but we didn't.
Yeah.
That 2 minutes was critical.
Because when I called to order, everybody, she was here except for Mark was not there.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
No, you're
yeah,
good.
that's what I got too.
You're good, you're good. All right, so moving on to item number 4. We'll now hear recommendations from the mural subcommittee regarding the NBD building murals.
Just before Jesse or Mike or whoever is gonna present their findings, I'm gonna pass this out. I'm gonna ask y'all to hand them back. Just because they're still the proprietary drawings of artists. Y'all can share that one. That one, and then this is the second.
You know. Okay. Oh, see, yeah, this is that.
Well, maybe let everybody kind of look those over and digest them a little bit, and then we'll talk about the relative merits, and then, we can give them at least the names, right, when we're talking about the person? So,
What can we say?
Oh.
yeah, well, I'm sure, yeah, saying that, yes, so the one that you see is stapled, the artist's name is Odessa Helm, so we'll talk about Odessa, it's not the city, it's a person.
I saw
Uh,
that.
And then the other one is Justine Wollaston. I think I pronounced her last name right, if I
That's
remember
right.
correctly. So we'll just kind of go with Justine as sort of shorthand there. I think both artists accepted our feedback based on their selection as finalists well. I think they both brought back designs pretty much what we asked for, in keeping with their original designs. So there were several designs submitted by Justine. We chose the one we felt best matched what we wanted to find. Tim, did you ever send that selfie to, or maybe we just, yeah. So, Tim took a selfie, you know, obviously, you know, kind of see how that might play for somebody. I think Tim was standing basically right over there on the Main Street side. Some of the items that we talked about is how this would look, right? We wanted it to, how it's gonna look when somebody turns off of Sherman onto Main. And how it looks for somebody's photos and how we can kind of like, you know, Aubrey part of their day or their vacation or their time. So that's something we ask the artists to consider as well. Our recommendation is that we accept Odessa's. That's the one we liked the best. You'll see the cost estimate is in there. And then, you know, Justine did a fine job here with that, but we feel like Odessa's mural better represents what we're looking for and accomplishes the goals we're setting up. So, Marcos?
Does she have a concept for the?
The other side?
Yeah.
No,
No, she didn't.
No, she did not provide a concept for this house.
But it would tie in with this, or it does include?
she did not include anything for the south side. Hers is north side only, and frankly, budget wise, that's probably the better bet. I mean, there was also some discussion amongst the mural subcommittee about this space. Maybe not something we want to draw a ton of people to just yet.
Well, there's other, with the other subcommittee of that construction, we're not sure exactly how, you know, that's one of the areas we want to talk about, and we're not sure. Uncertainty.
How it might be utilized.
It might be hidden, you
Well,
know,
maybe
depending on
there's-
the.
But let's just, yeah, depending what's done there, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't think it's technically unsafe, right? I mean, it's definitely not.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you think about how that space was for years, you know, it was blocked off from Main Street by a chain link fence. There was an old parade float sitting over there. So like, I'm just not sure that that space is quite as mature. It'd be fine, but like,
Where does she live?
she lives out East Texas,
Somewhere
south of Tyler, I think is what she said. She said the town, I forget now, but it was out, is out near Tyler.
It's Gilmore.
So she was,
Oh, Gilmer.
Gilmer. That's easy.
Yeah. She presented a number, in excess of 40 different murals, I believe, around East Texas
Oh.
and around Texas, not just East.
Well, and some actually very close to us.
Well, yeah, are we allowed to say?
And now that we've declared who the,
Question?
we've said
Are
who
we
the
allowed to
finalists
say,
are.
tell
so-
them the mural she did that's close to us?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
now that we've said the finalists, I mean, the names are out there.
So she was the muralist for the Salina Fire Station.
Okay. Okay.
And we looked at, the cost wise, one of the things that we did look at was kind of on a dollar per square foot basis. And, both of them are kind of in the range. It's anywhere from $15 to $50 a square foot is kind of the national range. And it depends on amount of paint and, you know, I mean, there's reasons for the difference. And when we looked at both of theirs, like Odessa gave us 4 or 5, I think, other projects she did with the costs and everything. And she's been pretty consistent at her cost per square foot. So if you looked at the Salina one, she charged them basically the same cost per square foot she'd be charging us. It's not, that thing's twice as big, so it costs Salina more money, but on a cost per square foot, they were the same. The other one, is clearly, a little bit different, and part of that cost per square foot is that you can just see the difference of the two, the amount of time and labor it's gonna take, and materials. So part of the difference of the cost is clear, is just, you can see the cost of.
Yeah.
That was extremely helpful information.
Oh,
Detail.
Yeah.
so the other thing I'll note,
Back.
for you all, it is very unlikely Odessa would be able to do her mural before Peanut Festival.
Always finished.
Have it complete.
She may be able to start it. There's a chance, I suppose, she can get it done, but it's unlikely. If you'd like to know, we'll share the reason when we're not being recorded. And then Justine would probably be able to do that if that weighs into you. We just felt like the impact of Odessa's would be a little bit more. And then something we talked about during a subcommittee meeting was if it's not done, if it's in progress, or if it's about to start, we can make that a positive for us. You sandwich board sign up, art in progress, come back and see us, drive that second visit back to downtown and maybe even, print up a picture of this or have that poster up so folks, are just rendering so they have a reason to want to come back.
She might even be painting it during.
Yeah,
She could be painting it.
Well, that's
Because
not-
she has done that,
That could be
she's
cool.
open to that because she actually said in the past, she is, as part of a festival or something, been there as an interactive
Yeah.
thing and helped complete it during the time.
Yeah.
So she's definitely aware that we would rather have it done by then, but she's flexible as to.
Kind of
making-
incorporate it into the
Yeah.
So that can,
Yeah.
okay, that was my concern because I see that there's rentals and if she starts it and then stops, then that rental fee is gonna constantly go up. That was what I just saw when you were saying stop and then start, and that would be my main.
Yeah,
concern.
there is
But
a contingency in there, which we are hoping won't be needed.
Yeah.
So that's, if it's like, if it's to get the peanut festival, if she wants to start before the peanut festival, whatever, but I would say, go ahead and do it solid straight, don't,
Mhm.
don't,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, weather permitting, of course, with the usual caveats, but
for
yeah.
sure.
So she just needs some accommodations and lodging when she does come.
From Easter, yeah.
Yeah.
How long does she expect it to take her when she starts?
She said 5
I forget.
days. Well,
About-
yeah, she would have,
About 3
She can
weeks.
come
If you
back.
look at the timeline, it's about.
Yeah.
From week 3, 4, 5?
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was
Right.
getting.
cool for you.
And she could probably, based on the timeline she gave us originally, she would probably be able to do a week. I mean, if we said do something before Peanut Festival, I think she gave us like a week to 10 days that she might be available, so she could be halfway through
Yeah,
before the festival.
I just want to make sure it was clear that, she warned us that
Yeah.
it's at least 50% likely we will not be done before the
Yeah,
festival.
that's definitely true.
If you guys want
At
to
least
weigh
50%.
that in your decision.
At least 50%.
She's very talented.
Yeah,
Very
did
impressed
you,
with the different types, because they're all the different.
well, you didn't send her full submission packet.
Do you wanna see the
One of the
original
other
drawings?
things,
Well, I was just thinking like the other packages that,
Yeah.
because the other murals she's done
Oh,
might be
that
helpful
RFP.
for them.
yeah, because she definitely had 3 or 4 in there.
Mhm.
The other thing that, like for me, her versus the other was that she just incorporated more of the historical elements. Whereas Justine certainly emphasized the peanut history, and by the way, she actually incorporated like 3 of her 4 designs into this, like.
Yep.
They had one without peanuts, they had one without, well, I mean,
Yeah,
so,
she was
so they
very
both artists really put in a
accommodating.
lot of thought and
Jessica
time.
is fantastic and extremely talented as well.
Yep.
She's
Yeah.
very, yes, she is.
And they
And
actually
she's
gave
local.
really good
Yeah.
explanations.
She did the
Yeah.
water
Pilot
cooler.
point, yeah.
And it was really good explanations of why they did
This
what
is
they did.
Odessa's.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she did a time.
Yeah, so this is the artist we selected as number 1, or the artist of submission. So this was her submission to us when we put out the RFP.
And as you can see, there's detail on costs
Yeah.
and other things in there.
Beautiful.
So
See there, well, that's this one, but she did include time, costs on.
This
it.
was the original.
you can see the original, you can see some of the changes we've asked for and how it
Yeah,
evolved.
the old timey train and the font and two new words.
I like her changes.
When we asked her to put the bollards back in, so you guys could see what it looked like with that in place.
Changes are good.
Yeah, I do too. I like them.
And
I mean, they
it's-
both did great. Just one was a pretty clear winner for us. I think probably,
Yeah.
I love them both. They're both great. Thank you all for your submissions.
Yes.
Yeah, they were. It was,
just so y'all can see, cause you never know, you may want another one day. This was Justine's.
this is some of her examples of past work.
I
So
love the palette.
they both definitely have a history and were able to provide us examples of history that would be applicable to us.
They've done it.
So, we also, they had agreed to pay for the finalists, this runner-up, to pay for their time for the drawing, so we will be paying the runner-up that fee for, the edits and changes.
Felt
And
that
that
was
was
fair based on,
Absolutely.
because they're gonna give us a higher level of effort and art than when we originally got in the RFP, because it's, that was basically done on spec. So if we're gonna ask them to put in the extra effort, only fair.
and that we based on kind of a standard hourly rate that we thought would be fair.
Beautiful. Good job, y'all. So I call for a motion to authorize the executive director to enter into a professional services agreement with Odessa Helm. In an amount not to exceed $18,000 for a mural on the MDB building. Do I have a first? I need somebody to.
I would make a motion to enter into professional services agreement with the Municipal Home. An amount not to exceed $18,000.
Correct.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion by Aaron, a second by Mike, all those in favor? All right, motion passes by vote of 6-0.
If y'all will give these back to me, then I'll.
But I'd also like to thank all the artists that submitted, including the two that looks like this finalists.
Yeah.
It was a great process and
In the first and the fourth.
the-
I mean, there were four.
yeah, the
total.
artists-
One like it was pretty close.
Thank y'all for doing that. Thank y'all
And
for
I do like
submitting.
that chaparral, that piece. That may end up somewhere in the future.
Love this chapter.
Well, and she made the point, like, show you how thoughtful these people are. She was like, you don't need something on this part of the wall because you can't see driving by. That's why she said, I only put the chaparral on
the very.
this side. So, I mean,
They
they
really
put a lot of
thought
thought into it.
Yeah.
Coming this way.
Yeah, she's like, you can see it coming this way, but if I put two, you couldn't see the other one, so why put two?
And it's such a
Yeah.
big
Very
bird.
Well,
impressive.
there's nothing that says y'all can't decide later,
Right.
Now they're all on our
And
database.
there may be other areas or other things.
There's
depending on,
definitely some other, I mean, as things develop, you'll see, there's opportunities.
yeah, depending on what happens with some of the other improvements we make.
Thank you guys, thank y'all for doing that. All right, we're gonna move on to number 5, discuss goals and objectives for the executive director and any new goals or objectives for the overall ANBD work plan and program. So Jesse, you asked for this to be brought back on for this month.
Yep.
So, what goals did you want to add to Christine's list?
I would like to see a goal added that new developments include a set percentage of commercial. We've had, we're getting this nothing but housing development. Christine is involved in the early stages in many of these. So that should have the ability to shape that, and I would expect an executive to shape that. in a manner to where we keep from having nothing but houses. And then where we're at, you know, like with Sandrock. Or in some of the ones coming in along, 428, right? I mean, there's three of them that just got added, zero retail, zero commercial.
Talk about Keeneland and so.
Okay,
Do what I can, I'll keep doing it. So I'll add that under. All right,
And I'm willing to listen to what we think that should be, that number should be, but on an absolute basis, we shouldn't be adding too many, certainly those along main thoroughfares without some sort of retail component.
And then Carl, I'd be interested to hear how that conversation will be incorporated with incentives. I mean, that's seems like a complex layering of conversations, but definitely.
But could we,
But I mean, just something, if we're gonna have an economic development director,
Correct.
we want him to direct it.
but
It
if
should be
we put,
steering it.
if we put a percent, a solid number, does the city have a hammer that can help get that? Because all this is out in ETJ.
It's not
there's no
necessarily a
zoning.
hammer, it doesn't have to be a hammer.
But I mean,
just
she doesn't have any force, I mean, I'm definitely not opposed. I don't know if we should put in a firm number because I'm not sure that the other side of that negotiation, realizing that the ETJ has less power than if they were in the city. You know, if we were in the city, we could say, well, we have all these zoning tools that we could use to help move it there. I don't know if we do we have the mechanism to help her push that in a specific number?
We
Right,
as the
it's
board
an
have some
active
tools as
goal.
well.
Well, that's true too. We can incentivize them, like, hey, we can contribute X amount of money if you do.
Well,
So
or if they
yeah.
say they don't want to do commercial, it takes too long to develop our commercial, we just want to throw houses down and leave and get our money and go.
Right.
Which is what a lot of them are gonna say. Fine, tell you what, sell it to us,
Yeah,
sell it to us.
Mhm.
If you say it takes 5 years and you don't want to wait 5 years because you're gonna have your houses, you'd be gone, you'd be doing it to some other city, fine, sell it to us. We have tools available as well.
Okay, that's,
So, and, you know, in every single one of these developments that come in, there is a negotiation, and frankly, as a board, right? We're gonna get, to a large degree, hopefully, what we choose to incentivize. And if we choose not to make this part of it, then we're just, you know, providing less incentive for us to help shape and steer what we want.
I agree conceptually with that. I'm just nervous that a specific. If we said, well, it has to be 30% or whatever, that we're not sure we can.
You know, if you did 30%, you know, if some sort of percentage you do is the number of developments that, as a percentage, that don't include any retail component. Instead of like the total square footage or, you know,
Right.
area,
Right.
as a
I mean, a
percentage of
number
that.
of percentage of subdivisions that do or don't have
I
commercial
mean,
development.
that could be an option, like, I'm open to all of it, I feel like we should have some sort of hard thing on there, because if you don't put a goal out there, you're not gonna get it.
Okay.
You're just not.
doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but you're setting a goal that. You're setting a goal that your city does not necessarily have the tools to achieve.
We've got tools. And, you know, here's the other thing, like, if you look at your goals with the city, right? I mean, I hope, as a resident of the city of Auburn, that the city council didn't give you goals that you were 100% you were gonna achieve. Because that's not gonna incentivize you to get, there needs to be some goals that are out there. If we give you
don't do
nothing but
goals,
the
we
easiest
do-
goals
we
to
do
hit.
ach- We do achievable goals. We don't do goals that are far reaching and you know you can't get to.
Okay, I mean,
We do achievable. That's the way we do it for our city employees. We set achievable goals. Now, we can set milestones that we want to reach later on.
well,
But
so how
our
many
goals
developments do we
themselves-
have that have added to the city that don't have a retail component versus how many that do?
since I've been here,
Well, let's go with the last 5 years. Because I'm not,
that's not something I have off the top of my head.
Okay,
but
I
I
guess-
well, that would be, if we're gonna like set this, we could have a baseline to know what that we want to see improvement, right?
Also, a little clarification, what define retail component?
Well, okay, so it's not.
Because that's pretty
entirely-
vague.
It's not, well, I'll say
Gas station, is that?
non-residential, right? So something that adds to our tax base that's not strictly ad valorem.
divide by a rooftop, right? But there's gotta be some sort of component to diversify our tax base.
Can we require that, Charles? I didn't think so. We can't even require what building materials they've used in our commercial corridors
All we can do is
for new
ask.
builds.
Yeah, it's just.
Alicia, do
and-
you have?
to
I mean,
go on an
you know,
ask.
If you
I
look
think
at how,
Alicia
some of
wants
the ones
to
I'm
say
actually
something.
familiar with, I saw from the start, right? And you watch how these things change. So they changed based upon input of the city. It functions as a negotiation. You look at like the way High Point changed from their very first thing that included a bunch of multifamily. And the city went and visited with them and said, not so much on that. Now it's not there, right? Now, in that case, MDD was not involved by a previous city administrator, right? Not, so this isn't Charles' fault. Wasn't involved early enough, like to protect that 377 corridor. So those houses are gonna back up in parts of it all the way to the roadway.
So
So-
as a goal itself, I think it's easy, I wrote the goal down, I mean, it's a good goal. What I'm saying is, I don't think you can put a hard number to it
No.
to make it achievable. Because you're gonna miss that mark. There's no way to determine what a developer is going to do, because if a
Right.
developer comes out here and wants to buy 50 acres in the center of nowhere, they're not going to do commercial there. That would be a hard ask. I mean, it's not, you would have to buy land and sit on it for an extended period of time. And that would be a hard ask.
So we do have tools. I mean, I'll admit that it's not like it was back in the day when cities could forcibly annex and make people do things they didn't want to do. And there's a reason why those laws got changed, right? But we do have tools. And as you get involved in this process early, right, you have the opportunity to steer this stuff. I'm sure you're getting phone calls from people saying they want to put in another self-storage place or whatever it happens to be, where you can kind of, sometimes that early contact can be crucial to help begin to steer.
Alicia, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, there's a lot of kind of multi-variables with this now, with the change in the ETJ legislation, where you can have developers that just decide to remove themselves from the ETJ if they don't like what you're looking at requiring. So some of those tools, although that there's incentive tools that the MDD can use, you can't force anyone, and it's even harder for the cities to try to enforce those now because people can just come in and leave. So other things that you need to consider are a lot of the times if we're looking at incentivizing development in the ETJ, what we're looking at are things like a development agreement between the city and the developer that the MDD might sign on as part of offering some incentives, but you're really not going to be, for the most part, the driving force. The driving force is going to be, is the city going to extend water and sewer, or are you going to have a PID or a TERS or some of these other tools that the city's going to offer that you might be able to sign in on and provide some money towards infrastructure, provide some money towards different things. But it's really going to be, when we're looking at these big developments and what is happening, that's really going to be, for the most part, some city initiated discussions, and then what can the MDD come on and add to those incentives to try to encourage that development. So I kind of have the same concerns. It's not really a legal concern, just a practicality concern. Something might be more beneficial to say, we want to see how many times you've met with developers, even if you're not successful in getting the commercial, but have you gone out and had the meetings and had the conversations and offered the services, and can you bring that back? That might be something that's more attainable and something that you can actually put a hard number on that Christine can reach as the requirement. But with the change in legislation for ETJ and people being able to leave and different things, it's really, it's quite frankly harder to get what cities are looking for from developers right now.
Has that been settled law? I thought it's under appeal. Has that law actually been?
It's
It's actually the law.
right now it's being challenged. So there are a number of cities who filed a lawsuit, and then there's side lawsuits where people have asked to leave and cities have said no, and then they're challenging the decision to say no. So it's kind of all up in the air. So we'll see, but as the law stands right now, there's legislation that says you have the right to remove yourself from the ETJ. And then we're hopeful that the Grand Prairie lawsuit will be successful and the courts overturn that and say it wasn't a constitutional ask. But, you know, the city shopping that developers can do is technically on the table at the moment.
I think the best way for us to insulate that or to ensure we have some kind of commercial development is to be proactive in looking at ways we can acquire more commercial type of property and develop it or create have more of a thumb or a control factor of what gets by its actually.
And that's already in our goals. But we're not getting enough of it. We, and I see her point about like, it's really easy to measure effort, but you have to measure effectiveness too. If you go to, a commercial real estate brokerage, when their kids are first coming out of college, yeah, here's how many calls I did. But they start falling off if they can't actually move things forward. And they might not be able to close a deal, right? Like, okay, great, you're out of college. You're not closing this deal, but you're moving it forward. So you have that, so that brokerage would have like, okay, well, you brought us this many contacts and this many made it to the next stage. So, in my current role in my company, right, there's so many that we have to do the work, but if you literally never are able to bring a contract to where we're going to do a proposal, like now we're going to go after this, that account executive is not long for the company.
Yeah, and I think that
So effort, one thing, but effectiveness is something else you have to measure as well.
for sure, and I understand what you're saying, but I think there's a lot of things that Christine's doing that she's not telling us about too. And that's where we've got to be a little bit more open in that situation, because you were telling me about a couple things today that you have, but she's just waiting to have the discussion with the developer.
And some of that we have to have an executive session.
Exactly. And so that's where I think being more open about those situations.
It would be nice if we were more open about this, but we're not. We're kind of choosing, or we've said we can't be more open about this. Like, when we talk about, evaluating her and, those evaluations are not open to the whole board. So like, this is something we've got, right? And this is a tool we should be using. And again, you get what you incentivize to a great degree.
Yeah. Well, okay. Anybody else have any questions? Or goals that they want to do?
No, not in addition to that. I think it's a great priority if we can find a way to install it or implement it in some manner or form, even if it's very long-term and multi-layered and collaboration with other departments, that would be incredible. I mean, it's as it sits, it's very succinct. I don't know how she implements it.
Right.
I have on here how many brokers, developers I meet with a month. And if there is a proposal that we can end up helping with and we do something about, I bring it to y'all in executive session. So honestly, it depends on how far it gets to the table over there before it can get here. So it's a process, and I think y'all heard about most of them. But there's just some things that never make it past the concept. So
Yeah, there's always somebody kicking the tires.
Yeah. And
I'm just trying to walk through the logic on both sides, because I agree we need more commercial. I agree we don't have the hammers that I would love for us to have because of the ETJ. So how can we, I'm trying to come up with like the language that incorporates both of those things. And I'm not gonna be able to do it in the next 3 or 4 minutes, but I might be able to do it. And
Listen, we can come back and modify. I just want to get this out there.
I would like the opportunity to think about it, and then maybe we can come up between us with because it has to be broad enough to be practical.
right.
But it has to be specific enough to be useful. And I think we can do that. So let's, how about that? I'd be more than happy to come up with that, because I agree completely that we need that.
Yeah.
And we can be clever in how we do it. One question I do have is when someone is proposing a development, how early in the process do we get involved, or
This is a question for Charles,
Yeah,
but
so
you know,
how-
previously Charles told me that she'd be involved from the start.
That's what I would think, like, so, I mean, because if part of it is every time someone comes to whoever it is, the planning commission or the zoning board, whoever it is, and they say, we wanna build a 2,000 unit deal, we should be at that table from day one,
So are
right?
you,
So we don't include Christine on tire kickers.
No, that's a good point.
So, but
I mean,
we
once
have
it's,
somebody
once
that's-
it's reached to the, we think we're gonna put a shovel in the dirt.
That's for, it's closer than that.
Okay,
So once we get somebody that is serious and they have done the first steps that they need to get on our development team, Christine's part of the development team and she's from the very beginning.
okay.
Hearing what you're going to hear about here in a few minutes when you go into executive session, a few things that are going on, that she hears that from the very beginning and she has input. She has developers that are talking to her right now there are developments that are still in the works that she's already talking to them about what businesses that we need to go there. But these are things that aren't yet out there. These are things that are not yet publicized because a lot of this has to do with developers who, especially on the commercial side, you know, something can happen in the market and they'll pull back really fast. So, you know, and another issue that you have here is residential developers are not commercial developers, and they generally don't work well together. And that's just, now, that may not be the case everywhere, but that's been what I have, my experience has been, they don't work well together. We have at least one situation right now where the commercial and the residential, they are not working well together at all. So it's very important for us to get them to work together. So sometimes that's the issue that you have. You have a developer that comes in, if it's a big developer and all they do is residential, you know, they might have a multi-family arm, but you know, we want them to keep that arm somewhere else.
yeah,
So,
And not all residential wants a retail strip in
No,
front of their
I
neighborhood,
understand.
so, I mean, it's a complicated
Well, and
puzzle.
I like to talk about the one I brought up in Salina, right, where they've got it integral to their community, it's in the center, it's very attractive.
Mixed use.
Like,
Gonna have
that's an
houses.
easy win, and frankly, you know, I mean, I know there's some other stuff we're talking about, we'll talk about in executive, but. So, she's got the opportunity to help shape, you know, hopefully she's built a relationship
I
with the
think that's what
city
they don't-
staff
a lot of us.
to be able to do that, like. It shouldn't be that hard.
well, it's not, I mean, I think that Christine's
She
doing
has
that.
several.
It can take 2 years before you see fruition of some of my discussions. Because of financing and things and how long it takes to build
Totally
out
get that.
something, so. There are also in those development reports you get from me, some of that stuff is, I keep telling you, don't share it because it hasn't been put out to council or planning and zoning
Yes.
yet, so. Those are those developments that we see coming across plate here, across the table, and they're going, here's what's coming. And if I see something in there that I think is potential for a good commercial spot or needs help with some infrastructure, needs help with something, I'm always going to the city staff and asking, what's the plan on this, what's the plan on that? And when they get to that point, they do come back and say, well, here's how much this is gonna cost.
The MDD's development name for itself. A number of developers are bypassing me now, and they bypass me and they go straight to Christine.
Yeah.
So, which is a good thing, that's what we needed, we need the MDD out there making a name for itself so that people know who to talk to. And those connections are being made, which is great for us, because that takes that off of me, takes it off of Leanne, and Christine just handles it. We discuss it in our development meetings, we discuss it amongst ourselves, staff meetings.
So I'm hearing that you're saying you got full confidence that she can deliver on something like this. That's what it sounds like you just said,
What do you mean?
that she has, you have confidence in her that she can deliver on a goal like this. Because she's making these connections, she's out there, they're coming to her early in the process, and she's working hand in hand with other city departments. I don't think this has to be a hard thing.
Yeah,
I
yes,
think you're making it harder than it needs to be.
just not
I'm
the
making it
percentage.
harder. I'm telling you, it will be very difficult for her to push anybody to do commercial that doesn't want to do commercial. That's what I'm saying.
But the
If they
people,
don't want to do commercial, we can't force them to do commercial. We can
I
incentivize
know
them.
we can't force it.
We can incentivize them, but if you have a home builder who doesn't want to go, who doesn't want to do commercial, there's not much incentivizing that we do to get them to do commercial. So there are some things that we can do that we can discuss here shortly. Some things that are already in the works that I think, if you want to call it, can it be delivered? Yes. But I don't think setting anything, a hard number to a goal like this is kind of, just don't see that. Now, if you give direction, I want you to do this, just like Alicia said. And are you going to these meetings? Are you doing these things? This is part of your goal. This is part of your objectives. Are you meeting your objectives to get this done? So yes, I think you could do that very easily.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you measure effort and you measure effectiveness. I don't think you just do only one.
I'm going to every planning and zoning meeting unless I do hear, see what y'all see on that development report, which by the way, we've got one today. I'll be sending out to y'all. So there are opportunities around every corner in Aubrey. And what I'm finding is that a lot of it is whether, or not things can come to fruition due to a lot of outside factors that weigh in on these developments. I think, Aaron, you understand some of that. So.
Let me continue for just a second. Part of the commercial issue that we have is we're not going to see a major boom in commercial until 377, 2931, and 1385 are reconstructed. That's when the MDD is going to become pivotal. That's why you purchase the land on 377. Right now, we're forcing a square peg into a round hole by doing some of these developments with commercial on them. It's just, we have some developers who are willing to talk to us and work with us and do some of these things. But on the general side, the Belmonts and the Saratogas of the world, there's no area out there that they would do commercial. There's nothing that they would benefit them. They have a small interest where they go in, wouldn't have benefited Kingwood to have commercial on the front side. So that it has to be a benefit to them and they have to want it.
All right. So moving on to staff reports.
So in the staff report, you have in front of you and I included in the folder the media report for y'all, for the website and for the social media. So on the staff report, I have always the meetings, number of meetings. I do keep a chart so that if Holly or anybody ever wants to know who I'm meeting with, I have names and company names and when I met, or the month I met with them in. So I do keep that detail. That's how I get you these total numbers. And we do have some more commercial spots that I've added updated pictures. We have this Pine Ridge North. He's really coming along with his buildings. We'll be starting on the south soon, the south corner. That is a retail and restaurant space. But the retail can be general retail. No, it's not. I
What was the
tried to
question,
send,
sorry?
Are they leased? Yeah.
yeah, they're not leased out yet. I tried to send them a lead and that lead couldn't pay that rent, so. Rental costs are a little high right now, for some per square foot, so it is a little challenging. I've had some more grant meetings, gonna have one Friday. People are interested. I've had some emails asking for the grant application, so that's good. Hopefully I'll be coming back to y'all soon with some of those applications and proposals. And as far as our website and visitors, now that we've been measuring it, we are seeing some traction on certain pages, which is good. And that's in your chart on the social media. And I don't really have anything else on that monthly staff report. I do want to just show you a couple things and give you a couple of reports, and then I'll go into the place through and back text so you have questions on that. But we did have, excuse me, I did have an ad that will go out in August, and that has got information about our upcoming business resource fair. That will be August 28th. Excuse me, in the hopefully in the new community room at the library from 4 to 7, and working with Chamber on that. And we're trying to make it very informative with some good basic business information, but it's also, we will have some deeper dives after that resource fair into certain topics that we'll put into our C3. But this business fair will target every business in the ETJ. I'm also again we'll have social media posts, we'll have postcards that go out with personal invitation. Chamber's gonna help target some businesses, inviting them. But it's a come and go design in terms of how it will function. But we will also have speakers at set times so that if somebody sees a topic that's of interest to them, they can come during that time. And then there will be tables set up for with information, excuse me, provided for marketing, Small Business Development Center out of North Central Texas College. That rep will come. We'll have Texas Workforce Commission and North Texas Workforce Solutions, because a lot of the issues we're hearing are staffing issues. And then there are obviously, we'll have some information on lending, financial lending for businesses and marketing. A lot of free marketing tools out there that I'm noticing some of our Aubrey businesses aren't really using, or they're not on maps. They're not, using some of those Google services. So we'll have a Google expert person who's done consulting and stuff with Google, and he'll talk about some of those free tools that businesses can use and how to easily use them.
When is that?
August 28th. And excuse me. Then I'm looking at having a broker luncheon toward the end of September. That would have most likely be at a ranch venue. I've got to get a date settled, but it'd be for area brokers, developers, and prospective businesses that we would want to target and invite. But we also will do a tour of Aubrey and show them some available properties as well as some areas of growth. And I think that would be good timing with our strategic plan. If we can, I'd like to time it around the strategic plan rollout. So if we wanted to let these brokers and developers know, here's where Aubrey is, here's our plan, here's where we're going, that'd be great. I'm so sorry, I have
While you're coughing, the broker event, you said you probably do it like the ranch thing. I'm assuming you're gonna do it in business that's already TJ.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
right down the road. Yeah, I try not to do anything outside the ETJ if I can avoid it, unless we just absolutely don't have that service, but excuse me. Neon Cloud filming date is July 19th. That's next Friday. It is sunrise to sundown, literally. I'll be he'll be staying at the Rancho de la Roca. I'll pick him up. We will do 15 locations between sunrise and sundown. And we have scouted out a good sunrise spot, a good sundown spot. So it'll also include a lot of these major thoroughfares and other places we need to highlight in that video. So the marketing and social media policy, I didn't hear back from anyone on specific, like something specific you may want to see or not want to see covered in a policy. So if you have that information, you want to email it to me, that'd be great. It'll help Alicia and I get some draft together to bring back to y'all at a meeting. Because there are certain discussions we've had that, especially on sign policy, that I think, we know pretty well what we'd like to see and not want to include. But if there is something you adamant about, please email me. And you all got placer and Zack tax reports, and I gave you several. And as Jason said, they will be coming back with some more of their own data too. We did, I'm gonna pull up one here just so you can look at it. And if y'all have specific questions.
Are you able to regenerate your own reports? Like you put in which things you want, like.
Oh yeah, I give it filters. Let me pull up, let's see here. So the circle you saw in the target area that Jason showed in his slide, that is our area of a trade area in the 7-mile radius. So when we look at so to Jesse's question about 1385, 428 pins in traffic. Okay, so I pulled up this report for traffic pin, and it gives you a lot of information on how many impressions are made, how many cars. They only count the car once. I did ask that if it counts it twice, if they don't. It
Sorry,
counts
the
it.
impression is a car driving
A cell phone.
within a certain range at that point.
Yes, of the traffic pin. Like, think of it like a billboard. If someone sees that billboard, they'll only count that impression once. They don't count it necessarily twice.
Sorry, is that directly past that point or within a radius of that point?
It's within a radius of the pin.
Okay.
Where the Google component, what do you call those? So the graph obviously shows the pattern of traffic, which is pretty obvious at certain times of day and certain times of the year. So the heat map here, and I couldn't get it to, what happens when you're in Placer is this pops up and generates and changes, so you can't like, I had to do the screenshot, or when I pulled the report, this was what was popping up. But over here, that's a Salina shopping center. This is a Prosper, Shops at Prosper area. This is down here at Little Elm. So there's like our 1385 ETJ line. Lots of heat there with the traffic pins, lots of heat here, high traffic, getting more high traffic here. So it's interesting to see the number of visits. And
Sorry, those are visits from the hot areas to those locations, or that's just?
those are how many visits the locations get. That means they've stayed there 6 or 7 minutes. It's, you can also you can set your minute range. I think these are maybe. But the pin traffic will tell you, if you look here at, this is STI pop stats. What that means is they mixed it with census and some other data. So it's not just census data. So I choose pop stats because I know we need to get measurements from other data sources as well. So this is the audience profile for that part of 1380, that pin area, and the people traveling to and from. So that gives you their demographic right there. So it kind of tells us, okay, well, that end of our DTJ has this median income of X amount. So if a business were to be looking to go over there, they would be looking at the same information we have here. A lot of them use these or other data sources. And this generated a report for me. So all these factors come into this report when you do a traffic pin report. So visits, this was based on 1 minute visits. These are the favorite places of people who tend to travel from this area to and from. So we can see a lot of them go down to the Colony. They're going over to Prosper. They're going to Preston Road, all that area, south, Stonebriar, and the airport. The airport comes up on just about every traffic pin, by the way. So we either have a lot of airport employees working or people who travel a lot to work, so travel. And here's their visitor journey. That means they left from, this is where they were coming from to go to that pin, and then where they went from, like for instance, fast food was the pin. So they were, and then they leave, they go back home. So maybe they're going to work. 13% of them are leaving to go to work. 3% are leaving to go get fast food. 4% are leaving to go to a restaurant. And when they leave there, they're going back home, they're going back to work. And they're going back to the restaurant. So it's definitely indicative of what we would think the pattern of traffic would be. From Tim, you live over there, you know,
Well, it's surprised
where it's
Stonebriar
going.
there
Yeah,
is number one. I'm kind of surprised at that, but, I mean, it's, in other words, the number. I
Yeah,
can
but you
see
think about
all-
some of those stores that are at Stonebriar, IKEA, all that could probably be coming up at Stonebriar. So, and
I mean,
there's.
and then outside of the airport, everything's
Stars,
retail.
yeah.
I mean, everything's, and not just retail, it's all a
Yeah.
shopping
Yeah.
center. Everything's a shopping center.
Yeah.
Prosper, so
Yeah, I'd be
that's.
curious about the arrow diagram. I wonder. So. Home to what? I mean, what's the center dot represent?
so they're saying that most of the people work, this is what my understanding of it, most of the people like that, I think that's your percentage of people that work from home. And then they go to eat dinner, or they go to retail, they go shopping, they go get some clothes, and
Well-
then they go back home.
that's the pin. So they're passing that pin or going to
Okay.
go to these places.
Yeah,
So that's the pin.
it's your pin.
Yeah, so the pin, I have it sitting like right at 1385. I picked the traffic pins too. So I picked I have like 4 pages of traffic pins. It's insane.
So,
So it's really, I was a little obsessive with my traffic pins.
so like 25% of the pin traffic doesn't fit into one of those categories roughly?
Right, yeah. So that placer's not really following in terms of if they didn't stay
They
there.
drove too far.
Well, if they didn't stay
On a
there,
road trip.
sometimes the placer won't pick it up if they didn't stay there long enough. So that's the other thing.
Okay.
And then this is your road traffic. This is 1 million people on that road. 1 million to 2.2
In
million.
what time frame does it say?
This doesn't give a time frame for it, but hourly impressions, you can look here and see the most are traveling 3 to 6. Well, probably more, that's probably more like
So in
4
a
to
day,
6.
they're saying.
It feels like it, but.
Yeah.
It can't be a million cars.
Yeah,
That's not possible.
There, here, no,
No, like, maybe
There's a
that's,
million people in there.
maybe that's over a year, but
yeah.
that. It feels like-
Typically, well, it's over the 6-month period. It's over the 6-month
Okay.
period.
oh, that makes more sense.
Up here, see, there's just, it's a lot of charts. Okay, so where's the 6 months? So from June to May.
Okay.
It may feel like 2 million in a day, though. I'm with you.
June to May would be a year.
That's 12 months.
Yeah, thank you.
So
it's
a million
here.
cars a year. go
So,
15.
No wonder it's such.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
up
That,
to
I can believe
up
that.
to 2.2 million. I mean, that's just the minimum.
That's just,
So it obviously became more when everything keeps building out there. So it's based on the year and then you've got, shoot. Yeah, okay. So you can see obviously too, the highest, busiest days of the week.
High school football
Yeah,
and probably basketball and every other
Sports.
varsity sport.
Going out to eat at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Going Great Escapes.
I came home from the airport on Friday.
now I've taken traffic pins that are I've taken traffic pins for, say, 428, this Main Street area right here. And I've compared the counts to our police departments and they're about spot on. And it's maybe a 100 car difference, but the police department puts out those signs that measure traffic. So, it's pretty good.
I do have a random question.
I like this data.
So in terms of to your point, when someone says, hey, we're gonna put this over here, if we know, and I'll look at this and I'll say, oh my gosh, this is perfect for a XYZ fast food store. I'll look up that store and I'll say, here's the traffic that comes from Aubrey to that store that's on 380 right now. You could locate up here and you could have this. Now, whether or not they can convince that retailer to come is a whole other story, but I'll use.
Part of what I always say, we have to know our own story, we have to be
Yeah,
able to tell our own story.
so I'll
We don't
tell
do those two
them,
things well.
we want this, but sometimes we don't get that. So, because they also have a relationships with different retail outlets and such, so, up here for Outlook dashboard, what was that? I gotta. Oh, so this is just our unmet demand, kind of like what Jason was talking about. So this is the demand for that type of category, business category, and this is how much we don't need. We don't have any. So grocery stores,
See,
clearly.
something's wrong with it.
Because we have brochures.
We have a grocery store.
Yeah, it's from Market.
We can't get.
Also keep in mind, some of these don't so Berkshire's didn't open up till what, last October, so sometimes it
It's
takes,
been a grocery
yeah,
store
yeah,
since
no, I
October.
agree, but maybe they're,
no, I think,
It just makes me worried that the data source, I mean,
yeah,
there's no
it
data
may
source
not
says-
be exact, so.
how I was interpreting that particular slide, and I can be way off. But the way, when I looked at that, I thought what it was doing was saying there's either based on the traffic that they had been following, right? Because they see where everybody goes to do stuff. So either based on the traffic or based on the household data, the household income, it says that
the purchasing power to buy, they kind of rank it like. People are gonna buy $23 million worth of cars in this area, and we have one car dealer.
Yeah.
I think, I looked at it that way,
That's-
so like the grocery store thing too, I'm like, yeah, we have a grocery
Yeah.
store. But everybody's going to Kroger, everybody's going to
Walmart. They have
Walmart,
it.
so if all those people stayed in our area, then they
Yeah.
could get that.
I would say that, I would agree with you, except they do have a not zero number under,
Right,
which is a restaurant.
it's fast food.
Unlimited.
Limited service, so like your Subway,
It's fast food.
Oh, so you're saying because it's zero.
Yeah.
because it's not zero
Something under-
on something else, it makes me
Yeah.
think there's something in the data that we're not.
Can you Yeah, okay,
And we
I
have,
buy that.
the thing is, we have full
You know,
service
that's
restaurants. We have several, and they're not being pulled in.
Well, that's what
Yeah, I think
I'm
you're right.
I think there's something on the data source,
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
that is,
I
there's
think the
something
gross numbers are probably right.
Yeah.
You're right, the net.
because they just do that based off household income, they know how many rooftops, how
Yeah,
many
but
people are
then-
there,
But then the overlay with what's.
but that center
actually in
part,
Aubrey. I
something's
think that's
missing
right.
on that data set.
No, I think you're right.
So it,
Yep,
I didn't
I
really
agree.
care for this report. The leakage report gives you a little more detail, but it also changes. So that's why I'm curious to see what they come back with on some specific leakage,
When you
but,
say it changes, like every time you run it, it's different.
the one I ran that was earlier this year was a little different from the one I just got.
I would expect that would change.
So,
I'd be concerned if it didn't change.
but it was interesting because I can't find, it showed less people going to bars this time than it did the previous time. So I was like, why are less people?
But
Why
actually,
is the number-
there's a lot of information out right now that's saying that people are doing drive-ins and not using as much as they did.
Yeah,
COVID.
true.
Oh, and if you ran it like right around the first of the year, people probably going to bars for New Year's.
Yeah, yeah,
Famous in town, let's get out of the house and go have a beer.
yes.
There was one report I didn't understand because the heading wasn't formatted correctly, and I'm trying to
On-
remember.
It was Zach. I think it's Zach tags, open Zach tags. I think it might, no.
No, this had two columns and the heading, the chart,
Oh, well, that was probably this one, the
that's
leakage.
one I was thinking, yes. Explain the columns
Okay.
for me there.
So, okay, so yeah, sorry about, so this is the category. This is, number of stores should be above this column.
How did
So-
this export? Did it export as an
It
Excel
comes
or
in an
PDF?
Excel and it's crazy. So it comes in an Excel. I had to save it as an Excel and then I had to go in and take the millions of decimal points out. So I went to the zero. So this is the number of visits by residents. Like this is how many times residents visited places like outside of Aubrey. This is,
What are y'all doing in your city? Because you're both coughing.
I don't know. Let's see, this one is this is how many visits they had. This is how many visitors went.
Okay, just
Outside
the
of
number of stores.
This
the
is the
first
number of
column.
stores.
Okay, that's all. I can look at this later and digest more. I was just wanting to understand, I knew which each column
Yeah.
represents.
So, yes, that is what you think it is, which is
Yeah.
kind of sad,
Where are
but,
those?
Well, you know what? There's certain categories of
Yeah.
leakage I think we're gonna be
Yeah.
okay with.
but this one was interesting, with bars and pubs, it was actually less this time, which would make sense if it was December and do dry January, but, so,
Number of stores 100,
mhm,
and then visited by 2,000 people,
mhm.
and then went to these places.
Is
So
there a
these are
report that-
actually Aubrey residents.
Is there a report
So-
like this that shows visits inside of Aubrey?
So a non-leakage report.
I can go to a specific business and look up what.
So
So we
places
can't,
are
we can't run
showing.
like these categories like this for,
I mean,
then you could go side by
Yeah.
side and go, okay, we're losing all
Right.
of our bar business. Well, we'll make a decision whether we like with that or not.
Mm-hmm.
We're losing 75% of our grocery business. We don't like that. You
Right.
know, We're
Well, I
losing
mean,
this
you
many of
can
our
see that.
restaurants.
you can see that here in terms of, grocery. Stores. general
Yeah, but this just shows
merchandise.
people that left. I wanna know also, the same report for people that stay in town do this.
Yeah. 'Cause that's-
I can pull specific businesses. I would not share those in a public meeting, but
No, I
because
wouldn't expect you
but
to.
I can give you an idea. I could
So
go
we
in.
can, so you can see how many people left in the grocery, and then you can see how many people use the grocery store.
Actually use it, yeah.
That's
I
what,
can see
that's
how
what I'm
many
asking for.
visits a local grocery store has.
This, but to stay in town,
Yeah, for sure.
or conversely,
I can,
this, but people that came from
I
outside.
can see if there's a general report like that. Otherwise, I can pull the businesses I know we have. I can see what their data says and make a spreadsheet.
It'd be pretty small.
Well, but again, you know,
It's good
if
information.
you, once you start with the big, so, okay, here's what we're losing, here's what we're gaining. All right, then we can try to look like, where's an area, so we can start to target areas that we want to, I mean, there's some that are gonna be obvious targets, right? Well, but, I mean, yeah, again, where we want where, you know, if you don't know what people are leaving for, and what they're staying for, and what we're drawing people from out of their city for. Cause like, frankly,
Yeah.
I love it when we can partner with other cities and it makes sense for us, but I would rather beat other cities more than I would rather lose to other cities. So I
Let
don't
me
want
see
the
if-
residents going to Salina. I want
Understand.
Salina coming to here.
Well, and there is that other report that there's another report, I think I had a list for y'all, but it was, it shows you. Again, that's those traffic pins will show, I've got a traffic pin at places in Denton, places in Prosper, I've got traffic pins all outside too, so it would tell us how many people went there, but as far, and that's kind of where they get the leakage report. So in terms of this, you can see that obviously that many grocery visits, but which specific grocery stores, I don't have.
No, I'm not as worried about
Yeah.
that. I mean, there's gonna be some grocery stores that'll pull different than others or better than others.
And I
Can
can
you
digest this
do,
later, I just was wondering what the columns,
Yeah.
making sure that the columns.
Yeah. can you
Yeah,
choose
sorry
smaller
about that.
windows of time?
I think you can do monthly and daily,
Cause
but like,
a month or a week would be really helpful around things like, say, when the peanut festival is.
we can do special event stats and sponsorship, like for
That,
sponsorship.
Tree lighting, a monthly
we
thing
can-
might be
we
nice, when you
can-
can figure out when the tulips are open and what kind of business that draws here to downtown, like.
You
work around
you
the-
can do some special event.
Yeah,
I'll see if I can pull one of those from recently.
because that might be the sort of thing that, you know, first of all,
I've
let's
got
just
it,
say.
let me look and see how I pull that.
I mean. You look at like, oh, we wanna do, I don't know, parking structure over here, we wanna do. Something over here to help draw that'd be a very easy, you know, very helpful thing for the board, you come back and say. Here's what happens when we do these events, and we wanna keep having events like this here.
Yeah.
And then conversely, you know,
Yeah.
start thinking through some of that stuff and how much traffic it really draws. Cause if you're looking at, oh, I don't know. Selling space at booths at the peanut festival. Well, here's how many people
Yeah.
are coming.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
Very good.
yeah, I can pull
Which,
that.
I mean, it doesn't help MDD directly, right? But it would certainly help. the
Well, but
city.
it would help
It'd be
the
good.
parks,
It'd be
it
good
would help
to- yeah.
Christina.
I'm sure the parks folks would
For
love
some
that information.
sponsorship sales,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, when they're selling sponsorship on some music, all that stuff,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
incredibly helpful.
All right, is that all?
Okay, so just Zach tax, y'all saw those, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Those are our biggest industries, retail, general services.
Very good.
More residents we get, the more that green box gets bigger, the line goes up down here. So, it's all good.
So, okay.
Okay,
Conclusion?
so I'll look for those other reports. Thank you for giving me some specifics and I'll get those pulled up. Before the next meeting, I'll put them in the folder and let y'all know when they're in there. You can review them.
Move into future agenda requests. I have down the building subcommittee update. Anybody else have any other future agenda requests?
So we're gonna do the. Goal thing again?
Yeah, I think we have goals on there because we're gonna have a chance to talk about tonight.
Sound good?
Sign policy, I think we should leave on there. I know we didn't really talk about it
Yeah.
tonight.
Well, yeah. We talked about it. If, like I said, if y'all have any, and like Christine said, if you have any thing that y'all want to add to it, they're gonna start creating it. I think they have started working on it, and then we'll have something.
Yeah, like I said, then, you know, say here's where we're at, and I don't want to lose track of it.
Yeah, for sure.
With some of the stuff that we talked about, I think that's gonna be
important we get that done.
And the marketing policy,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
We discussed this before when we were, right before we started the strategic plan. When we did the initial goals,
Mhm.
we talked about SMART goals.
Mhm.
I think what I'll do is, so the whole board has the benefit of that, I'll send something out to the board. If you're okay with it, about SMART goals and what they are, specific and measurable.
Yeah.
And relevant and achievable. That way there's a, you get an idea of how to design the goal so that you can measure it, so it is
Yeah.
achievable.
That'd be great.
And that way, that's for, because we had talked about that
Yeah, we
just
did.
very, very briefly
Yeah,
about using SMART goals.
yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
And then maybe not so much an agenda item, but if you'll do it for your staff report next month, an update on mural. By then we may have heard back from
After, yeah.
the winning finalist, and we'll have a sense on
She'll
time.
have it give you, give us an idea.
Yeah. Oh, and just, I forgot to mention this in my staff report, but hopefully I'll have a final lease that I can email to you all for our
Yeah.
auto parts store.
Well, thanks for getting the mowing done. I was on the verge of grabbing my mower and just going over there.
Yeah, that whole thing is on the schedule now, so.
Yeah, well, I noticed it actually hit it, so.
Okay, so
Anything else?
I'm gonna put lease on here just so I can email it to you ahead of time, but
All right, so I'll write Lisa on here.
Social media marketing.
Yeah, so I have it assignment on policy and a marketing policy. Oh, you want it different?
No. I just don't know what are the what are you?
well,
asking
so
As far as feedback is
in
concerned.
like a
I
marketing
don't know what
policy,
to-
basically, we've really kind of established some of our marketing now in the budget, which is helpful. Because we know now kind of what we want to spend some money on, but what I'm thinking is, so for instance, we have a sponsorship that comes for the school foundation for a program ad, maybe. That we could get in there and get in front of some business owners and people that go to that function and have our information in there. You know, those are the types of, in a policy, we would say, place ads and do sponsorships that reach our target audience or develop brokers, what have you.
Approval of ads and marketing. How that's done, that should be included in the policy.
Yeah, right,
Like
so
the one you passed around tonight, what was the process on that, for example?
on the ad design.
Yeah.
We approved it we approved it.
We had approved, that's the same ad that's been designed for since.
We approved
June.
design,
No,
we approved placing an ad, right?
But we also approved, the placement of the ad and.
and for placing it is,
In,
Delegated the authority to do the ad, but also
Yeah.
to design the ad.
I did run it by Holly
in mine.
and I ran it just to,
Mhm.
the design is
Yeah.
sticking with kind of a brand look that we've kind of developed and designed from our brochures. So a branding is different than a marketing policy, so branding may be the next step
This
to
is
our
just about
strategic
the ad.
plan. Right, I stuck with a brand that the designer had done for us, for
I
the
get
right
that.
part and everything else.
Below the QR code, there's not enough contrast between the blue background and that dark red. Like,
Mhm.
if you're this far away, you can't read what it says.
I'll
So
make-
that's why that's why I'm asking, like, what's the approval process?
Yeah, well,
That should be
I'll
part of the
make-
policy.
I'll make note of that.
Anyway,
Oh,
okay,
okay. Kind of feedback by that, we can email, we can provide feedback.
Yeah, when you're working with graphic designers, you can only get so many revisions in
They can change the
thing,
color.
so. I think,
well,
We
so
have-
this is our original ad, and when you're looking at a magazine, you're not gonna be looking at it from over here across the room.
Okay.
You're gonna be looking at it right here in the corner.
Is there writing below that QR code?
Mhm.
Not in that
So
one.
just a reminder that the
Yeah.
ads and marketing aren't on the agenda for tonight.
So-
So
Yeah.
you can talk about putting
Yeah.
on a future agenda, but not
I,
the details.
yeah, no, what I asked for is, I want that included in the policy. She asked for things that would be included. I want to know what the approval process would be. That's what I asked for.
So in terms of the policy, that
Okay,
we'll
It'll be
have
future.
some ideas on there for the next meeting.
so at this time, Aubrey and BD will convene into executive session to discuss the following items. Section 551.071 consultation with attorney. Section 551.072 real property, section 551.087 deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. I call for a motion to convene into executive session at the time of,
8:21.
Sorry, you wanted to make a motion?
yeah, who makes the motion?
I'll make a motion that we close regular session and open executive session at 8:21 PM.
All right, Jesse. I have a motion by Jesse, a second by Vicky, all those in favor? All right, vote is 6-0. Motion to recess in the.
Well, she's
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
pausing it.
We don't have-
Now you need to reconvene.
All right.
I
We
made, I
are,
made a single motion to do both.
she did, we have now reconvened into the open session. At 9:11. Seeing that, is there any additional information? Action, anything? Okay, seeing no additional action this evening, I
I'll
will
make a motion to adjourn at 9:12. My apologies for interrupting you.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A motion by Aaron, a motion by Vicky and a second by Aaron, all those in favor? Perfect, we are now indeed. 6-0, 9-12.